With a hurricane bearing down, a group of rich 20-somethings holed up in a remote family mansion, stocked with food, flashlights, and drugs ready to party their way through the storm. As night falls though, lines are crossed, simmering grudges are resurfaced, and the group decides to play one of their favorite games, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. One player is designated the murderer, lights go out, a victim gets tapped on the shoulder, and everyone tries to guess who the killer was. But when the house's power is cut for real, the people start getting killed for real, and old friends must survive the night and find the murderer in their midst. That is, of course, if they can get over themselves first.
Did you just shoot me?
I can't believe you're making this about you!
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Burns Reviews, and today we're talking about the new A24 film, Bodies, 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 and I had such a fun time with this movie, not to get ahead of myself, but the last A24 movie that I watched was Men. It drained days off my life, I felt like, and it's so refreshing to just have like a light comedy horror movie that we haven't had quite like this in a while. I'm going to get into the pros and cons of what works and what doesn't, but before we begin, if you could, be sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. Surprisingly, a staggering amount of you watch a lot of these videos but are not subscribed, and honestly, I don't always ask, I don't like to be pushy about it, but if you could, we're trying to get to $10,000 so that we can go to a YouTube conference in New York City, but 10,000 subs is what we need, so please, if you could, it costs you nothing, and if you don't want to, I understand. With that said, let's get into it and talk about Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about before I get into like the nitty-gritty of it is two things. One, there's a lot of people talking about this movie right now saying that there is a script online that has been leaked, it's an early draft, it spoils the movie. I was lucky to see this at a press screening last night, and I can tell you, after reading the last 5 pages of the script that leaked online, this is totally not that script. It's way more polished, the dialogue is way better, they've definitely tailored it to fit Pete Davidson and Lee Pace as well as the others, and as far as the big reveal in the end of how it all wraps up, completely different. I didn't really like what they did in the script that was leaked online. This felt fresh, this felt original. I kinda guessed it in the middle of the movie, and I went, no. They wouldn't do something that... No. And they did! I don't want to give away too much because some people can read me very well and I don't want to ruin this movie. The best part of this movie is going into it blind. It's very much a whodunit. It kind of reminded me of the movie Clue with Tim Curry back in the day. I would say this is very much a comedy, but not really a horror movie. Yes, there is blood. Yes, they do find a lot of bodies that are just covered with blood, bullet holes, slashes, you name it. But it's always after the fact. We never really see a lot of scenes where people are getting killed, so it just feels like an R-rated version of Clue in a lot of ways. And it does have a very heavy, biting commentary on society as far as the youngest generation, Gen Z, the TikTokers of the world, the very specific type of people that we've all encountered. Not all of Gen Z, but there is a very specific subgenre of people inside of Gen Z, and we know exactly who these people are. There's a lot of virtue signaling, insincerity, they're fake, they're phony, they're all self-consuming, they're stereotypes, and this movie is taking stabs at that, but it was hysterical every step of the way. Going into the acting, I thought that Lee Pace and Pete Davidson were fantastic. Also, real quick, I just want to address it right off the bat. I've heard a lot of people say that this movie is this generation's Scream. No, not at all. Scream is a very clever movie. This movie is clever too, in its own way. I can't get into it more than that, but Scream is kind of a masterpiece. It's like the best horror movie that came out of the 90s, in my opinion. This is a really fun comedy. And I say comedy and not horror because, yes, there is blood. Yes, it is gory. Yes, I could see why it got an R rating. But this movie kind of reminded me of Clue, and oddly enough, it kind of reminded me of This Is the End. In that, yes, there are scenes where there's blood, but you're laughing the entire movie. You're not, there's no scenes of real tension or gore or body horror or you know, your typical slasher kind of affair. This is very much a satire that is extremely funny. Pete Davidson, you know, he's a complete obnoxious asshole. You can't stand him. All of his friends just endure him because he has a mansion. They don't really like him. He's very abusive and toxic to the group. But the rest of the group isn't much better, and they all have their reasons for being terrible. And I'm not saying they're all bad. There's like 1 or 2 characters in the movie that are decent people, but for the most part, these people are pretty bad. It's kind of funny because I have no doubt that people are going to watch this movie, and some people are going to get the satirical commentary right away. And then there's going to be a small group of people that aren't going to understand that they're the ones being laughed at. And I have no doubt that those same people are like, this movie speaks to me. We should start playing bodies, bodies, bodies. And they're probably going to slap the shit out of each other, if not occasionally punch each other out, as it happens in the film. With that said, guys, I really enjoyed this movie. I did not have very high expectations. I looked at it and went, okay, so they're using Pete Davidson and Lee Pace to sell the film, and that is more or less the case. The new stars are a bit of a mixed bag. I can go into it really quick. Amanda Stenburn, I'd say, is probably the standout in this film. Maria Bakovola, I'm sorry if I'm butchering her name. She's okay. I know people are kind of like praising her in this film. I thought she was very average. She doesn't talk much. There's a couple scenes that are a bit emotional. She carries her weight as an actress, but I don't think she was that great. Rachel Sennott Alice, who many of you might know from Shiva Baby. I have not seen that one. I hear it's very good. She probably stole the show performance-wise, outside of Lee Pace and Pete Davidson. She does some really great acting as far as just being a stereotype, but feeling believable at the same time. Chase Sue Wonders, who plays Emma. Again, I apologize if I mispronounced the name. She is easily the weakest link in this movie. She doesn't have much to say or do. When she does, it's forgettable. I kept forgetting that she was even in the movie while I was trying to run down the list of suspects. And yeah, you could easily get rid of her and the movie would be fine. Myha'la Harold Jordan, pretty decent. And of course, Lee Pace, who I know not from Guardians of the Galaxy, but from a little show from AMC called Halt and Catch Fire, in which he is amazing in that show, and was one of the reasons why I want to check this movie out. Be sure to go check out that TV show. It's on Netflix right now. I know a lot of people know him as Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're like, he's a bad actor. No, he is a very intense actor. He could also be charming, and he can switch like that, which I think is a very talented actor. Him and Pete Davidson really elevated this movie from not being a Redbox kind of movie. As well as Amandla Stenberg, I thought she was fantastic as Sophie. As far as the direction and cinematography, I think it was pretty solid. It's not overachieving in any way, but at the same time, it felt like a grade A movie. It felt like an A24 film. It's competent in its cinematography. As far as the negatives go, some of it you have to just suspend your disbelief a little bit. You kind of have to roll with it. This is a comedy. This is not a horror movie where you're going to try to make a lot of sense of it. It is a satire, so it's trying to convey a very specific message about how today's generation can sometimes be incredibly toxic, not only to one another, but to themselves. And that is what they are trying to push. I did look at the original script, and there is, in fact, some very cringy dialogue that does feel like they're dropping a lot of, oh, my teenage daughter is a Gen Z type girl, and I heard her say that, so I'm going to drop that in the movie. It does feel like it was written by somebody's dad sometimes. But they did clean up the script a lot, and what we see on the screen is so much better. Does it have some cringy moments? Rarely. I think they really did nail the commentary of what Gen Z can be like on Twitter today, and sometimes some people that we have met in real life. But I really don't have a whole lot of faults with this movie. It is a comedy, so I'm not grading it the way I would grade Citizen Kane. I laughed my ass off from 10 minutes in right up until the credits. It's that much fun, so I would highly recommend it. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. We're going to be doing an End and Explain that will be coming out on August 5th, the same day as the film, which will be at 10 p.m. So once you walk out of the theater, come back over here. We'll talk about it. We'll comment down below. We'll exchange thoughts. Be sure to subscribe again. And until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. I have been John here on Burns Reviews. We have some very big announcements that I'm happy to announce very soon. It's part of the reason why I've been taking a hiatus. And I'll be sure to deliver that as soon as it's ready. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. I have been John here on Burns Reviews. You just got burned, and we will see you next time.